If you want your jet to look as cool as mine, click the link in the description down below, get 3% off of anything you buy in the Gaijin store, and be awarded this decal on screen. I hope nobody minded that cinematic intro. I just couldn't help myself for the F-15. It is my favorite jet of all time, as I mentioned last video, so it gets a little bit of special treatment. Sorry about it. This is my absolute favorite jet of the patch for obvious reasons, and I do want to clarify that when I say my favorite jets, I mean like in real life. I think that these things are cool, and these are my 3 favorite in real life that are coming this update. And starting off, of course, with the F-15C, I think this is without a doubt going to be one of the best planes in the game. Maybe not the best, it's too early to tell. AMRAAMs are going to change, probably all these other missiles are going to change, flight models are going to change, who knows what's going to change. Speaking of changes, it did get 8 AMRAAMs, which I was talking about last video where it was only at 4. Apparently Gaijin just wasn't finished with the loadouts yet, which I don't understand how, because it seems really simple to me, but who knows what the coding of the game requires. But now you can run your 6 AMRAAM and 2 AIM-9M loadout, or if you're feeling extremely restarted, you can take all 8 AMRAAMs and then just shoot them all off at the beginning, then RTB, because trust me, I get 5 kills per game doing this, guys. I am of course kidding, you shouldn't do that, and I am going to include this footage on screen as the background gameplay for the F-15, just so you can see why. Anyways, with the F-15 you get a fantastic flight model, you finally get HMD on the F-15C, which is a massive quality of life improvement. You get the most amount of internal countermeasures of any other plane at top tier. Sure, there's things like the Gripen or the F-14B or the Harriers, which have way more countermeasures, but that's because they're carrying bull pods. Without the bull pods, the F-15 would have more. And that being said, the F-15 actually, the F-15C, could carry bull pods of its own, which would give it over 800 countermeasures. Now I hate all of the infinite amount of countermeasure planes like the Gripen and the F-14 and the Harrier. It's extremely annoying and extremely frustrating when they can just leave on periodic. But the F-15, if it doesn't get bull pods, would be the very first plane added to the game that could have them and then just doesn't. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Regardless, it's going to be a fantastic plane either way, and I recommend you grind it. Next up is the Su-27SM. Some of you are probably wondering, wait a minute, isn't the J-11A just better because it has the missile approach warning system? Well, yeah, probably, but I don't really care about the J-11 in real life, and I haven't even touched it so far on the dev server, and this is my favorite list of planes I like in real life. I'm not saying that they're going to be the best in War Thunder, I'm not saying that I think they're the best in War Thunder, I'm just saying that in real life, these are the ones that I think are the coolest. The Su-27SM also I anticipate being a very strong plane in the patch, but really at this rate it's going to be pretty difficult to find a plane that's not going to be strong. And so I actually got to give props to Gaijin, credit where it's due. They did a pretty good job at introducing enough active radar homing missiles on enough platforms to where everybody's a little bit competitive. Now, the F4F ICE, which we will get to in another video, may be the exception here. A lot of people are maudling about it, but maybe not. We'll just have to wait and see. I'll get to that later. With the Su-27, you retain the pretty poor 1v1 flight model that the other Su-27 has. It's pretty much the exact same thing as far as I can tell. There might be slight weight differences, but as far as dogfighting matchups that aren't Su-27s, it's all going to play out the exact same. You have a plane that pulls a lot of AOA at a very small window of speed before it just loses all of it. You can, of course, still rely on HMD R-73s to win some dogfights for you, but against competent players, you really don't want to get caught out by yourself in the Su-27 because you're probably going to be losing the dogfights. That being said, you still carry more missiles than everything else at top tier, and you get some very competitive loadouts of 6 and 4, 4 R-73s, and 6 R-77s that you can just continuously spam at people. It doesn't have the most amount of countermeasures in the world, but they are large caliber, and they do deploy in a pretty consistent pattern for gate with IRCCM. If you need help flaring IRCCM, I have a tutorial that I will put on screen here, as well as link in the description down below. I think due to the sheer quantity of missiles that the Su-27 can carry and just the ease of use this plane provides with the HMD and the missiles it carries, the flight performance is not that big of a deal. Sure, if you're going to take it out dueling, or if you're going to take it out into a competitive match, or if we finally do get smaller team sizes, the flight model might matter. But I've even checked off the box, which lets you get into potentially 6v6 to 12 versus 12 games, and I've got nothing but 16 versus 16, even on the dev server. So my hope for smaller matches is pretty much out the window this update, but that does mean the Su-27 will be even stronger, or at least rather maintain its competitive position in top tier lineups, because 16 versus 16 is so chaotic. The quantity of missiles really matters, the quality of missiles really matters, and flight performance doesn't matter as much as it would otherwise in something like an 8 versus 8. And I do want to say that even though my match sizes have been 16 versus 16, you got to remember on the dev server, you're fighting mostly bots. So that means that typically I'll see 3 or 4 players on the other team per game, and that has been a lot of fun. If I only have to worry about 4 players max, it really does change how the gameplay feels and what you can actually get away with at top tier, and it's a lot less chaotic, a lot more peaceful. And all around, I think that skill is going to matter a bit more the smaller the match size. Not a very useful opinion right now because we're not getting smaller matches it seems, but it was nice to play test it with active radars and see how it played out, and I liked it. And lastly, well, in third place, hardly really last if you ask me, but in third place we have the Mirage 2000 because I always have liked the Mirage 2000. It is probably one of my favorite Delta Wings of all time. Not saying a whole lot because I'm not a big fan of Delta Wing aircraft, but the Mirage 2000 really did it well. I just think it looks really cool and it truly is iconic. When you think of a Dorito airplane, you think of the Mirage 2000 more than likely. And with the new update, the Mirage 2000, at least the F5 is getting a bit of a revamp with the Mica missiles, which very well could end up being the best active radar homing missiles added to the game. They can do some pretty crazy stuff. Granted, it feels like the flight models for the missiles still are not finished, especially so at the Micas, so I wouldn't necessarily expect it to come to the live server exactly as it is right now, but I see the potential. And I think if Gaijin model everything correctly, we could be looking at a very dangerous kit. You got 6 Mica missiles and 2 Magic 2s. Magic 2s have gotten a lot of buffs since I used to be a professional Magic 2 hater, and I quite like them now. Unfortunately, however, while the Magic 2 has been buffed, the Mirage 2000 itself has been nerfed. The flight model is certainly not as easy and clean as it felt before. As I've been recording this though, there are flight model reports, bug reports in the system right now to try to give it some more instantaneous turn rate. That could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. I'm not really the guy to ask, it just really depends on how it feels in the end. You can definitely overtune or undertune attributes like this when it comes to the flight model. If you're pulling too much AOA using a keyboard, it's pretty difficult to retain energy, but if you don't get enough AOA, everyone's just going to turn inside of you all day. So I'm going to kind of refrain from giving an opinion on the flight model change. There's definitely better people you could ask about it, but overall it seems the consensus that the flight model right now is a lot worse than it used to be, and it's also looking to potentially get changed even further. That being said, I haven't had an issue with the flight model in practice. As I said with the Su-27, in 16 versus 16 top tier, it really isn't ever that big of an issue, and even in my smaller 4 versus 4 games, I rarely ever got into real dogfights against any of these enemy players. The radar is pretty nice, it has HMD, it has good ACM, and it has a very healthy amount of countermeasures. 3 things that I think are very important in top tier, at least when it comes to ease of use and quality of life mechanics. So these are the 3 planes of the patch that I'm looking forward to playing most once the server goes live. An honorable mention is of course the F-15J, which if the F-15C doesn't get its bull pods, the F-15J should just be a straight up upgrade over the F-15C, but the F-15C is the original and it's my country's, so that's the one I'm sticking with. What aircraft are you most excited for this update? Let me know in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.